Hello and welcome to the recording on responsible AI. As part of our support for the COBIS Annual Conference, we'd like to share with you this conversation between COBIS Chair of Board, Lord Jim Knight. Welcome, Jim. And our contributor all the way from California, Latha Ramanan. So Latha, thank you for getting up early in the morning and joining us. The purpose of the conversation is to share with you the importance of responsible AI. So I think that is the right place to start. So, Latha, why today is responsible AI important, and how has it changed over the last couple of years?
I think I'm just going to start with what is responsible AI first, because I think it's a good reminder for everybody. Responsible AI is there to make sure there are enough guardrails in the system to make sure that the AI tools that has been implemented wherever is acting in the responsible way, in a safe way, in a trustworthy way, and the privacy of the end users is safeguarded, right? The responsible AI for some products like that we have built, like Merlyn Mind, were built on 6 different principles, like purpose-built. Is it purpose-built for education? Does it understand the context of education? Is it safe, and does it have all the security measures that it needs to have? Is it compliant with all the different policies? Are the privacy of end users being adopted in the right way? And is it legally compliant with all the different policies that are there in different education systems? Is it transparent, and is it fair? And is it being tested for any risks that will come up? But responsible AI is not just about solution development. Responsible AI is also about, is it being implemented in a responsible way? Is it being used in a responsible way? That also makes a lot of sense. Now, you asked, where is the state of responsible AI right now? 2 years ago, there was a lot of talk about responsible AI when it just came up, and AI safety, AI risk, etc. Right now, when you attend some of the conferences, the responsible AI is there, but it is not being screamed at the top of the voice in anything. It may be because 2 things. One, it has become a standard expectation that everybody is following responsible AI policies and principles and making sure that the solutions are safe. That's one theory. That's definitely possible. The other theory is people are really developing solutions very fast. And in order to bring those AI tools super fast to the systems, to the end users, maybe responsible AI is being sidelined a little bit. So these 2 theories are abound. It depends on who you are talking to, and then you will get the answer.
And that is there a third theory? Because the cynic in me, yeah, and listening to the debates from this side of the Atlantic, would say maybe the tech bros that run things in the valley where you are, they all went and paid homage and funded the president's inauguration, and they're getting a very benign regulatory environment as a result, and they're not having to worry about it, and so they can accelerate the development of their AIs without worrying so much about the ethics. They can just get on with it.
Yeah, I think that is the part that is I try to say sidestep, in the sense of, in order to bring it fast, they are sidelining responsible AI. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There is a worry for us here in the UK that in order to get a trade deal, which is really important economically for the UK, we might end up ceding too much back to the tech companies, and ceding a lot of the work we've done on online safety, especially for children, and that's quite a big policy worry right now.
Right. Absolutely. And we've all seen how what went with the social media use without any guardrails. Yeah.
So here in Europe, Jim, and you mentioned online safety, we have the European EU AI Act, and a lot of conversations are taking place about the importance of that. How, from a perspective of children's safety, do you see the regulation today and the regulation sort of moving forward? Because again, this is about advice and guidance to head teachers in a world that seems to be moving so rapidly. Where do you think we're at, and where do we need to go for that advice?
Well, the Online Safety Act has been in existence for a while, but this calendar year is the year when when the rubber hits the road, when Ofcom, the regulator, is really now implementing the regulation and imposing its will on the tech companies. So by the end of this calendar year, it ought to be the case, if the law works, that it would be very difficult for children below the age of 18 to access porn online. It will be difficult for them to access social media below the age that the tech companies themselves set as the minimum age, so normally 13 for most social media. So they'll be regulated really hard on that, with a risk of up to 10% of global turnover as a fine, and a risk of criminal sanctions for the owners of those companies, or the lead owner, the lead executive in this country for those companies, and a bunch of other things as well in terms of other risks, especially to children, around suicide ideation, self-harm, upskirting, various new offences that we brought in that act. So that's a new regime that's coming in at the moment, and people should start to see the difference. Now, there are new issues that are coming up all the time. The adolescence program on Netflix has raised the stakes on misogyny, and how pervasive misogyny can be amongst young people, and that's an issue for teachers in schools. We've got this very active debate about smartphones. Should we have smartphone bans? Australia have moved more down a sort of harder ban route that they're implementing through this year around social media. I suspect that debate will continue to sort of iteratively run, with some arguing that, yes, there is no place for the distractions of smartphones in schools. They create all sorts of harms, and the benefits are not worth it. And they create lots of behavior problems. And then those that are saying, actually, the job of schools is to educate. And these are devices that exist in children's lives outside of school. And part of the job of education is to get young people to learn how to use them responsibly. I think there's a balance between the two. And certainly the schools that I'm responsible for, we're looking at using ways of using shielding pouches and other things in order to essentially make personal devices, personal phones, less usable during school, so that block the signal, lock them away, but that they can be unlocked for learning if they're needed for learning. But that's a whole discrete little debate within all of this. The actual business of teaching and learning and what happens in the classroom, I don't know, Ian. It might end up with us having to move towards discrete learning devices that are distributed to learners, that are controlled much more by the school. They're not a bring your own device model. They're a school provided device where they can control the content. They can firewall them much more carefully, and they can make sure that they can then integrate better with the other devices that exist in the classroom. And then finally, I suppose I look at a product like Merlyn Mind and others where voice is the main interface, and moving away from keyboards and mice. I look at GoodNotes. I do a bit of work with them and see how AI is enabling fantastic handwriting recognition on tablets. The idea that we might move towards voice and pen being the main devices to interact with technology, I think is realistic and quite interesting in terms of what then might happen with assessment and realizing some of the opportunities of AI.
Yeah, no, that's really powerful. I will come back on a couple of those things. But Latha, the whole area of voice, mobile phones, and these things. Just a quick comment from your perspective. I know you have children, so
Yeah,
in the States,
absolutely.
where is this conversation?
I think as Lord Jim said, like the balance is very key. I do think it is important for us to take this as an opportunity to do AI training for all alike. And that includes for students, that includes for teachers, to make sure that they have the same baseline of understanding of what AI is and what it can do and what it can be used for in the future. How we did media literacy, digital media literacy when the internet took off, I think we were catching up. I want to twist it on the head and said, right now we want to be proactive about AI and make sure that we can train it. You can use it later, but train it first. Train what it can do.
Yeah.
Train whether what kind of images can it create. Can train the students that what all you see and all you read may not be true. Don't
Yeah.
those are things that we need to start teaching the students, because we do have the responsibility of preparing them for the future of workforce and for the future.
Mhm.
So I think there is a balance. We need to teach them, and we need to teach the teachers to teach them. And we also need to talk about all of the, and there is a responsibility there. And so I strongly believe that's part of responsible AI as well, in training them about AI.
And I think that
Yeah, training the teaching workforce, training the leaders how to lead AI strategies, and then training children and young people about
Yeah.
all the whole raft of things. Even down to there's been this trend in the last week or two of getting AI to create action figure images of yourself. Now, the energy cost of doing that might be fun,
But yeah,
but OpenAI as a business uses as much power as it takes to recharge pretty much all of the electric vehicles in the United States. Now, it uses a lot of energy to do stupid, fun things, and we need to be educated around all of
and
these sorts of stuff.
yeah.
And so Jim, from an ethical and a sustainable sort of point of view, those points are absolutely valid. Yet, and we'll come in a minute to just talk about where, as a teacher, I go for trusted sources of information on what I should be doing. But just picking up on the point you made about teacher training, and with your hat on as the chair of the trust, then I hear lots of people saying, "Oh, all our teachers are trained." And then I hear the next person saying, actually, well, yeah, we maybe a third of them have some degree of competence. Where in the because everybody thinks that they're the last one to do this, whereas in fact, actually, I believe there's still a long way to go. So, can you give us a sense of where people are in your own trust, and then Latha, where you think the teachers are in the States?
Sure.
No, we're only scratching the surface. We had an AI day for schools in the trust, where they came to think about it and talk about it and understand it better. There's still a lot of work to be done around the leadership of it. We've known with EdTech for the last 20 years that technology in schools generally can work really well and can add value if it is well led. So good leadership of it understands pedagogically what the intent is and understands what the products that might meet that intent could be, how they work, what the business model is, what data they're collecting, what the data protection regulations are around it. Yeah, there's a leadership challenge. And so the starting point is to get leaders to understand what's the opportunity, what are the constraints, strategically where can it fit, and then they will best be able to then put together the training requirement for their teachers, so the teachers can then understand those things as well. in the absence of anything, the danger is that too many teachers might do what too many young people are doing, using free tools, leaking data, breaking all sorts of data protection regulations. The data is key to all of this, because it's the key to the business model for so much of it. So there's a bunch of ethical questions that we need trusted sources for people to go and get training in, around all of those things, but particularly around the data, I think.
No, that's good. And Latha, from the States, where do you think en masse teachers are on their AI journey?
I think when we started and putting out the Gen AI features for Merlyn Mind and in 24, there were a lot of people when we spoke to the school, they weren't sure whether they want to implement AI or where they are, or they didn't know where to go for information. Though we had excellent organizations, education organizations in the US putting out a lot of like guide, and there were states, there were at least, when I looked at it 4 months ago, 22 states which had AI guidance policy for schools, right? That the states had come up, each of the individual states had come up with. But the school administration is bombarded with a lot of information about solutions, and they didn't know where to go. So it was very helpful for them when we went in as Merlyn Mind and said, we can conduct a workshop. We can also give you a checklist if you're an administrator or an end user of what to do for AI. What are the things that you need to look for? And we weren't even saying that you need to take us, but this is what you should be looking for. Is it compliant? Is the data being safeguarded? Are there good retention policies? Are there good deletion policies? What happens when a teacher leaves? Is their data there in the system, or is it gone with them? A lot of these things we were able to teach and condense within one page. And they really appreciated it because they compared it to certain organizations which had given them a 90-page document, which is good to read to get to the baseline. But you need something that you can take and okay, say, there is a checklist of like 30, 40 questions that can you answer, right?
No.
So I do think that we need to come to, and we have to make sure that we can, in this era of instant gratification, unfortunately, in this era of 30-second shots, video shots, we have to make sure that there is digestible data, digestible information, digestible training for the teachers. They don't have time. So and administrators, right? So that's all we have to focus on. Can we get that to them in a digestible format?
No, that's great, Latha. And I know you've put a huge amount of work and effort with your colleagues into creating these AI principles. And I'm pleased that obviously people coming to the COBIS Annual Conference will be able to come to the stand and pick up a copy of those checklists and the responsible guidelines and talk to us and help answer any questions. So Jim, to finish this conversation, you talked about the importance of good teaching and learning, the role of an experienced and trained teacher, obviously students being able to safely build skills from the age of 5 and upwards. What advice would you leave the listeners to the conversation?
I think, as ever with any technology, take time to understand it. Don't rush. I think it's important to think quickly and then act a bit more slowly, if you see what I mean. So get your head around it as a matter of urgency. Have a strategy as a matter of urgency, but don't think that you have to just suddenly adopt everything and acquire everything if you're not ready. Make sure your teachers are ready. Make sure you've got a clear intent, and then you can make something work. And yeah, ultimately, of course, this is about the children and young people, and there are opportunities to, yes, make teachers' lives easier, make them more effective, but ultimately to equip our children and young people for an AI world that they'll move into when they move into the world of work. So if there is a sense of urgency about it, without wanting to contradict myself too much, it is that we get those children AI literate and AI confident, and use tools that make it as easy as possible for them to be able to do that.